question. Where did you get those dance moves? Because they've gone viral.
It's a big hit in the 80s.
The defense kind of making a statement like that. How have you seen that build the confidence? I know it's just been a couple of days, but to say this is what we talk about. Brian said they kind of re-engineered it after the Oregon game. Kind of see that payoff.
Yeah, you're happy for the players, all the work they put in, and we've been preaching that has to be our standard. It just has to be the expectation. So it builds confidence, and I think not just in the players, but the whole team or the whole staff or fans. I mean, when you have a defense that you can count on, I think it just mentally gives everybody a sense of calm.
We'll go second row here, Stephen.
When you evaluate the Oregon game, and obviously the last couple of weeks, it seems like you've been a little bit more aggressive with the blitz calls. And I know you've got a lot of faith in this defensive line, but when you were evaluating that Oregon game, how did you maybe change your approach in terms of how often you wanted to send more than 4 guys, and have you seen like an uptick in how much you wanted to do that just based on what you saw 3 weeks ago? In
Yeah,
that game?
I think right. I think that we need to keep finding ways to bring more pressure, and I think it was evidenced in that game, and we made a push to do it, and I think that's who we really want to be.
Third row middle, Dan Hope.
Jim, Ryan was saying that after the Oregon game, you guys had to almost kind of start from scratch in terms of your defense. What was that process like for you in terms of kind of re-engineering the defense after that game?
It's just a process of going back to the basics, alignment. Things got out of whack in that game somewhat, and you're just trying to give the players every chance to succeed. So for me, it just all goes back to the basics. You can get yourself out of whack sometimes trying to match people up and get everybody in the right places and be perfect. And in that game, or really any game, we realized it's more important just to have guys with their feet set and ready to play when the ball is snapped. So it's really just back to basics.
Front row, Dave Biddle.
Jim, who's the second best dancer on the coaching staff behind you?
No comment. I don't know. It's not. Yeah, I don't have a comment.
I do have a serious question though. But, Caleb Downs seems like he does a lot of things well. Obviously, is there if you had to pick one thing that he does the best, what would that be?
He sees the play before it happens. I think he's got incredible talent, but then he's got the vision, and all the best defense players I've been around, they see it before it happens, based on the formation and then the film study, and it just gives him another leg up.
Stay in the front row, Austin.
Jeanette, you may not care about this at all, and I don't think Cody probably does, but he wasn't named as semifinalist for the Butkus Award. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, I mean, he's our leader, so you like to see him get recognition. I'm not up on how that whole process works, so I guess nothing surprises me that way. But certainly like to see him get any recognition that he can, because he does a lot for us.
Right behind him, Bill Landis.
Jim, when you talk about getting back to basics, it feels like over the last 2 weeks maybe you've structurally at times more resembled what you were doing in Oklahoma State, and not always maybe what you've done here for the last year and a half or so. Am I off base with that, or how much is there truth in that, and you just sort of getting back to the things that had made you a successful coordinator as well, not just for the players themselves?
Right. I mean, I think there's a lot of truth in that, and that's kind of what I say, like getting back to basics and what works, what gives your guys the best chance to succeed, no matter where you're at in playing defense. So I think you're right to say that.
Front row here, Joey Kaufman.
Just as far as getting back to basics, is that the calls you make? Is it the assignments you give players? That's assignments. Can you just kind of elaborate? I guess what do you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just starts with your structure, how you line up. experience all kinds of tempos these days and various formations. So it's just, how do you line up? How do you match up? What's the basic structure of the defense? How can you get set quickly and operate and make those adjustments given what the offense presents to you,
Stay in the front row, right next door, Bill Rubino's.
Yeah, I'm sure it was humbling what happened against Oregon, and then have Ryan Day kind of say we got to change things. But now it seems like you are getting back to some of the stuff that you did at Oklahoma State. Is this kind of back to a comfort level for you, or do you feel real good about where you are with this?
Yeah, I feel comfortable with it. What happened happened. So you have to look at yourself, and it's my job to have the answer. So, I know systematically what the answers are. So getting back to that. So there's definitely a comfort zone to it.
Go deep center field, Jeremy Birmingham.
Jim, how do you handle situations like a guy like Jack Sawyer, who obviously has played a lot of football here? I think at times maybe it seems like he's this close to having big plays in the game, and then maybe they don't materialize for whatever reason. Is there a propensity for a player like that who's had success to overreact, to try and do too much, and how do you guys handle that internally?
Yeah, I think that's human nature. Jack's a competitive dude and wants to make plays, and I think that's human nature. But he's also a team guy, and he always has been. So you just tell him to keep swinging. Just keep doing what you're doing. The production will come. If you remember last year, his later half of the season was fantastic. So that's what I expect out of him too here.
Go fourth row middle, Tony Ferdinand.
It's been a few weeks, but I'm just wondering about your reaction to Nick Saban's comments about the antiquated pass rush.
I didn't hear them. I don't get to read much or see much. What did he say?
He just, after the Oregon game, just reviewing it, said he thought that the four-man rush was kind of an antiquated attack.
Yeah, I don't know. He knows what he's talking about, so you can't argue with his success. But we just have to keep evaluating ourselves and getting better.
Go to Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
When you have a guy that makes a mistake, or is having a bad game, whether it's Denzel or offensively, throwing a pick six, how much can a coach get a guy to move on to the next play, and how much is that just the kid's wiring? I mean, do you work on that?
Yeah, that's training. Yeah, you always go back to your training. You always fall back or rise up to the level of your training. So there's not much you can do with the heat of the game. It happens in practice, and you coach them during practice. Because you can see instances all the time in practice where a guy kind of goes in the tank or he battles back, so you just try to emphasize and show those examples during practice. But during the game, it's really a matter of how he's been trained, what he's done in practice.
Time for a couple more. We'll go to Dan Opel, Warriors.
Oh, I already got it.
I got you. Okay. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Two quickies. Number one, did the mitts work on Davis and Ickbenosin? Because obviously he had the hold against him on the previous play, even though the guy made the catch, and then he makes one of the great plays you ever see in college football.
Absolutely. I think it worked. Yeah, absolutely. The film tells you.
Yeah.
And he's still fighting all the time, a penalty every now and then for a corner who's going to be up there throwing punches and fighting, that's part of the game. You just don't want three of them.
And in the fourth down play, in the magnificent goal line stand, was that just a pure example of preparation, like you talked about the window dressing coming in motion? He's not an eligible receiver. He's either, you know what I'm saying, your two safeties jump, the two primaries really on that play. Just take me through that. As you're watching it, are you going, yes, that's what y'all worked on?
Absolutely. That's 100% what you practice shows up in the game. And, I think that's the benefit of two veteran safeties, and knowing the situation and the call and what's going to happen. And you did. Their reaction was spot on. They just jumped the right guys and took it away. And it's tough play in that situation because you're in there defending the run, and then you got to be able to cover those kind of routes. And They both did, yeah. I mean, Caleb made the play, but Lathan jumped that route quickly, which took that away, which I think is a big deal.
Last one to Bill.
Is Cade McDonald one of the best game breakers you have along the offensive line? Do you believe that to be true?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's a guy that, particularly when you put him in those situations where he's just like head up the center, you know, and his job is to just knock that guy back. I think he's showing to have the ability to really change the game and change the line of scrimmage. You know, so definitely a guy who's earning himself more playing time.
Is he physically capable of playing more, or is he kind of in a spot where you just need him to play like a smaller amount of snaps so he's going to be as explosive as possible?
Yeah, I think he's capable. You know, you just don't want to throw 50 plays on him, but you just try to ratchet it up over the course of time.
All right, Coach, thank you.